Now the show continues, of course, with the review of the front pages of the National Dailies. As usual, we start with the Daily Trust newspaper. And the major story here is about the budget padding, where Nigerians are angry with the lawmakers.
I think the headline should read "Nigerians even more angry."
Exactly,
because even before the budget padding,
already. All right, the writers are saying ex-legislators slammed the Senate, based on these allegations coming out. I got 1 billion naira for constituency projects. That's according to Senator Nwoko. Okay, there's just a lot coming out, just slipping out. Someone is saying Nigeria operating a faulty budgeting system. And also we have the civil societies coming out, the Sarab, CSOs, Dons demand investigations into the matter. You'll find all of these stories on page 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Below there you'd see Niger junta suspends military cooperation with the US. You'll find that story on page 5. That is a wise decision, though. The U.S., when they reach out to someone, has never really been a good thing.
I think they have a base in Niger, and right now there was a proposal that was agreed to. However, the military junta just decided, listen, you know what? We're not going to go ahead with this arrangement anymore. They're trying to cut all ties with the West. And I think that they're doubling down on that.
No, when you see the interference of U.S. in other countries, you definitely would be a bit skeptical on that. So we don't blame Niger for that one. All right, moving on, we have 4 feared killed in Kogi communal clash. You find that on page 31. Zamfara Varsity abduction. We are not aware of our children's release. That's according to the parents. I want to see where that,
because neither the police nor the military or even the parents have heard this development, so it's not confirmed. At this point, it's just speculation.
It's a really sad situation there. We have Tinubu to CDS, bring killers of military personnel to justice. Okwama community raised, the military deploys armored vehicles. You find that disheartening story on page 35. Below the headlines there, disquiet in CBN as Cardoso retires Emefiele's directors. Okay, another
Emefiele's directors?
That's how it was framed anyways. NSITF to spend about 12 billion naira on promotion productivity, 25.6 billion naira on personnel. We keep hearing a lot of money in Nigeria. I do not even understand. It says SANU and NASU shut down varsities nationwide today. The front page seems to be carrying a lot of sad news. These are some of the stories that you'll find on the Daily Trust this Monday.
Most news stories are sad or disappointing, to say the least. Let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Internet outage. Trade payments suffer as service disruption may linger till April. And there's an infographic there that displays the countries affected. Nigeria is on the low spectrum of the impact there, even though 2 days ago it was rather uncomfortable. Slain soldiers, Tinubu grants military full authority to pursue justice, silent on reprisals. What does full authority mean? Were they operating in gear 1 all this time?
Before?
We like to think that they had all the authority as constituted in the Constitution, or as provided in the Constitution. But anyway, that story is on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. SANU now to begin nationwide strike today. Northern leaders, Sarab seek probe of 3.7 trillion budget padding allegation. Senate reps hold secret hearing on new student loan bill that has scaled second reading last week. In other news, Katsina, Zamfara governors knocked for boycotting security meeting. Yes, why exactly do they do that? Because these are 2 of the states that are hardest hit by the current insecurity trend in the country. And finally, cutting governance cost beyond Oronsai report. That's it on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, quickly, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. From the top of the page there, NJC raises alarm over alleged bid to defraud retired judicial officers. The federal government also recovers about 6.1 billion naira from arbitrary port charges and import-export fraud in 5 years. saves about 33.1 billion naira from demurrage and freight rates. The major story is talking about the killings of soldiers in Delta, saying bring culprits to justice. Tinubu directs the DHQ and CDS, says act wicked won't go unpunished. Delta governor and Senate condemned the killing. We did not kill the soldiers, that's according to Okwama people.
Or did they kill themselves?
Troops occupy community as demolition of houses continues, and mixed reactions as soldiers allegedly burned down houses in the community. Afeni Fere faults Tinubu on herders and farmers clash. PDP and APC stalwarts mold the mega party. Lagos to push for special status listing of the LCDAs. Residents protest over houses marked for demolition on Ibadan Circular Road. And finally, we have stakeholders raise concern as Nigerians' inflation rate rises to 31.70%. I mean, there's also a pictorial of the Okwama community in Ugeli South local government area of Delta State, burning. A really, really disheartening picture that. But these are some of the stories that you would find on the Nigerian Tribune. And then, of course, joining us to discuss the front pages is Suleiman Obagaya, CEO, Sky Limit Media Group. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Didn't show up last week. He left me and Sumaya hanging, but we understand. We understand why. Good morning. It's good to see you.
Sorry, I was somewhat indisposed.
Right.
All right. So let's head on. Start with the budget padding situation. But anyways, I would like to, before we head on to this major story of the Daily Trust, let's talk about your take on what happened, between the soldiers and the people of Ugeli Okwama, local government of Udili.
Well, it's a moment of tremendous sadness for Nigeria, because if we continue to kill our troops the way our soldiers were killed callously in Okwama, then we'll wake up one day with practically all members of the Nigerian Armed Forces resigning. And that would be a sad day, because we can't manage ourselves. That will result in a state of serious anarchy. And there is no nation, no society has ever survived or will ever survive in a state of anarchy. So I feel tremendous sadness, and I support in all President Tinubu's directive, or rather, I heard you complaining about, was it complaining
authority.
or
no? It's just
you are raising an issue to do with the
peculiarity of the word. I mean, you like to think that they operate with the full authority of the law, but well, the president always coming out to give directives, rather suggests that they depend on him to actually do their work.
Well, they have to somehow depend on him.
I mean, operationally.
Yeah, he's the commander-in-chief.
Yeah, but isn't that in statutorily that he's the commander-in-chief, but also as far as operations go, they have a chain of command that doesn't necessarily link the president directly.
Yeah, definitely there are powers that have been imbued in them. They do not necessarily need the president's clarification in every bit of their operation. They have the leverage to use their initiative and act promptly. But by the president now giving them full powers to act, he's responding appropriately to the gruesome murder, of our troops. Not just murder, but remember that from the footage we've seen, their stomachs were ripped open, some had their heads amputated. It was probably the most gruesome pictures some of us have seen in a long time.
For unnecessarily nothing.
For unnecessarily nothing.
It's not like the army attacked these villages for them.
They were there for peacekeeping.
Retaliating. It's not looking well.
Try that in the United States. Try that in the United Kingdom. I'm telling you, you won't survive it.
We've seen how people just flipping a finger at police officers even get them in trouble.
Exactly.
In the States, and not to talk more of killing somebody. We just hope these people are brought to justice. But speaking on, I want to pipe down on what Abdullahi asked about the operational, reaching out. We've seen a lot of situations of army, when they get an SOS from particular village crisis, they would tell you that they're not going to go there because they have not gotten directive from the top, even though the bandits or perpetrators of that act are still there and they could easily get them. Shouldn't there be a stop to that, chain, which will not be rapid and swift to get, into action?
Well, that also will result in a sort of anarchy. Let me explain it to you. In the security parlance, there is what is called beat. Beat is where you are stationed to do your work. Like you are stationed in Trust TV studio right now to do your work. If after receiving an alarm, you, assuming you are a military officer or a security officer or a police officer, have to move from your beat, that is the position where you are stationed to do your work, and go elsewhere to handle the security alarm over there. It will mean there could be enemies of state can use false alarms to dislodge you from your location and perpetrate acts of mayhem at the place you are stationed to do your work. So that is why even though they could hear or even be seen an act of terrorism taking place within a short distance from where they are stationed, they are not permitted to leave their beats, because it can be a ploy by the enemies to get them out of position
and make them vulnerable in that.
Exactly.
Right.
So that is.
All right.
I mean, it's a rather complicated structure, but
Indeed.
also
Indeed.
I think the framers of these rules and procedures thought about, fail safes and plan Bs, and perhaps put it in there to mitigate certain scenarios. But of course, it leaves much to be desired as far as Nigerians are
Then we'll
concerned.
come back to the promise of the president having about 50,000 people.
Into the system
not
to boost
enough human
security.
resources.
Yeah. But let's talk about the can of worms that Senator Ningi has opened. Apparently, Nigerians can't get enough of this, and the senators, for some reason, are just spilling the beans. The cat is out of the bag. Senator Walker, on a podcast with Shema Kibaloy, was talking about how he has received R1 billion in constituency projects over time. I know they're trying to justify these constituency expenditure, but they're coming off as unsincere to most Nigerians. That listen, before Senator Ningi said anything, you all pretended as if you were living, hand to mouth, that there is nothing that comes to you, in a special way. What is your take on the revelation so far, now that the Arewa Consultative Forum, civil society organizations are calling for a probe? President Obasanjo has indicted them using some very choice words, and many more Nigerians are chiming in, berating the senators for their, misguided approach towards addressing this by suspending the senator and hiding the facts from Nigerians.
Well, you see, it is not just the senators that were pretending all was well with the situation. Nigerians were also guilty of that. I'm not in the least surprised that this thing is happening, or that this matter has now been brought to light. You see, I'm sorry to say, and please permit me, forgive me also for using this word, a lot of lawmakers are shameless. I'm sorry I have to use this.
I don't think shameless is that bad. It's not that bad at all.
Honestly, because you see, now for God's sake, somebody has raised an alarm. A ranking senator, for that matter, he was in the federal legislature except for 8 years. The last, let's say, 9 years that he has been out of the system. Out of the system. Is by all definitions a ranking senator who knows his onions. He raised an allegation that 3.7 trillion naira worth of projects have not been located, and that's all that the Senate could do was simply to, try to place a speck in our eyes and simply rushed him to suspension without even raising a committee to investigate the allegations Senator Ningi made. That is a joke taken too far. That is a very massive insult on Nigerians.
But were we expecting the Senate to be the one to raise the committee? I mean, the allegations is on them. Like, they are the people that did, the crime, alleged crime. So somewhat, the presidency was what everybody was expecting to make that kind of decision, saying, okay, it should be investigated. And it's even surprising that it has taken on up to today. There haven't been any investigative committee placed on, exactly what is happening.
And I don't think there will ever be any, because of that word shamelessness that we made reference to. Look at the Senate President. Look at the allegations being levied that his own constituency has about 90 billion worth of constituency projects. You see, under normal circumstances, there is little to accuse about constituency projects, because even in the United States, you have some of those things, happening. And of course, it was suspended for about 10 years until it was until it was brought back about 3 years ago. But what happens there is that you are a senator, you are a member of the House of Reps. You simply propose for projects that will be executed in your own constituency. But you have no hand whatsoever in the execution of those projects. That is very much unlike what obtains in Nigeria, where you, as the senator or House of Reps member, will be the contractor, so to say, because you will be the one bringing the contractors, and they overjudge the price of projects. Look at what is in the budget, 2024 budget. A borehole costing 190 million. I know of a rocky area in Kano.
I mean, deep freezers costing 250 million naira.
For God's sake. And I saw a deep freezer at, I don't want to mention the name of the store so they don't accuse me of
I mean, you say you pay. I think that's our rule here. Right.
I saw a deep freezer at 190,000 naira.
Right.
And the highest, I think, was just around 500, 600,000. And here we are, somebody talking about a deep freezer costing 200 million or so. And even in rocky areas, you can't do a borehole at more than probably $1 million naira, because I know we did it about 2 years ago at around 700,000. So let's even say it is 2 million naira. But these people are now doing it at 100, or rather want to do it at 190 million.
I mean, for the most part, this is an open secret, isn't it? I mean, with the constituency projects, I mean, Nigerians don't make a big deal out of it, but it's like an open secret. We do know that they get to choose the contractors who are usually their stooges or their confidants to execute it, because they get kickback out of it. Do you think this is a window of opportunity to turn things around, or do you think this is just going to be one of many incidents as far as the activities of the parliament is concerned?
You see, it is a massive window of opportunity, especially for President Tinubu. He has a chance now to close his eyes, face reality, and sanction the corrupt among the corrupt members of his government, and that is inclusive of the three arms: legislature, executives that he heads directly, as well as the judiciary. Unfortunately, the principal officers chosen are people who, most of them, have allegations of corruptions on their heads, including even the Senate President. We know about his cases with EFCC. Have they always been swept under the carpet? And why even compelling the legislators or the senators to elect someone with EFCC cases on his head? I'm not saying by EFCC merely accusing you are guilty, but then, you see, some of these personalities are notoriously known to be unprecedentedly corrupt, and it is up to President Tinubu, honestly, to act with dispatch and get rid of most of them.
We hope the president do. I mean, he came out and say corruption is pushing back, but then he is...
Maybe he's talking about a different corruption.
Indeed, but it's all corruption. And then his main, agenda, there is also fighting corruption. So we hope, he takes the initiative to start with this. Thank you so much. I mean, due to time, of course, we cannot sit down and dissect all of this. And there's been a lot on front pages.
You can see that Alex Lema is laughing at your naivety when you said the thing is in the agenda, as if we always follow the agenda.
Okay, Suzaru, I'm going to give you back. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us as usual this Monday to dissect the front pages.
My pleasure. My pleasure at all times.
Of course.
And you've been getting the name correctly.
Thank you so much. I take that as a compliment. And with that, of course, we have come to the end of Daybreak this Monday morning. Please do stick around. At the top of the hour, 360 Sport would be here for you. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Do have a lovely week.
Thank you most kindly for joining us. Daybreak returns tomorrow. Until then, good morning. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed.